I was sent to repair an old radio tower that shouldn't have been transmitting anything at all. But the signal wasn't broken. It was calling. And when I realized who it was calling, it was already too late. This is the recording I never meant for anyone to hear. I got the work order for Haven Ridge on a Tuesday morning, the kind of grey, forgettable day where everything feels slightly out of focus. I was halfway through my first coffee when the ticket popped up in the internal system, flagged in yellow. Priority: medium high site, Haven Ridge Relay Station, HR07 issue, unauthorized signal activity, investigate, verify shutdown status. I frowned at the screen, HR07. I'd heard the code before but never seen it assigned to anyone. It was one of those locations that existed in old documentation, half-archived PDFs and scanned maps, but never showed up in scheduled maintenance. A dead site, a forgotten station. Or it should have been. I scrolled down. The original decommission date was stamped 1984, with the word inactive repeated 3 times in uppercase. According to the records, the relay station at Haven Ridge hadn't broadcast a single watt in nearly 4 decades. So why was it suddenly on my list? I called dispatch out of habit, more to hear a human voice than anything else. Yeah, I see it, the dispatcher said, typing. Came from higher up. We just route it. Higher up who? I asked. A pause, then a shrug I could hear through the line. Doesn't say, just that it's pinging. Some kind of residual carrier. They want eyes on it. Residual carrier, on a dead frequency. Sure. I pretended not to care. It's easier that way. You just go where they send you, and you don't ask what used to be there before you. But something about Haven Ridge wedged itself in the back of my mind. I pulled up a map. The relay station was pinned on a sloping, heavily forested area near an old stretch of road in West Virginia, about an hour and a half from the nearest real town. The satellite image showed a small rectangular building clinging to the side of the mountain, surrounded by dense trees, a thin access road, and nothing else. The kind of nowhere you only go to on purpose. The notes mentioned limited local population and restricted infrastructure, which is a nice way of saying, if something goes wrong, nobody's around to see it. I should have declined it. I should have kicked it back up the chain and pretended the ticket glitched. Instead, I packed a toolkit, a laptop, a portable spectrum analyzer, and told myself it was just another dead site throwing out garbage noise. On my way out of the office, Mark, one of the older techs, saw the location code on my printout. "You're going up to Haven Ridge?" he asked, the words coming out slower than usual. "Yeah," I said. "You know it?" He stared at the paper for a beat too long. "Used to," he muttered, "back when we still had analog up there." "What happened to it?" He hesitated, then gave a half smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Storm took it out, or budget cuts. Depends on who you ask." "Storm bad enough to shut it down forever?" I asked. He looked at me like I'd missed something obvious. "Some sites don't need to come back," he said quietly. "That's all." I waited for the joke, the punchline, the usual old-timer story about fried transmitters and blown fuses. It never came. Instead, he tapped the corner of the paper with a calloused finger and lowered his voice. "If the station's really broadcasting again," he said, "you log it. You verify the source. You don't stay up there after dark." I laughed because that's what you do when someone decides to go cryptic on you. He didn't laugh back. "Serious," he added, "the ridge messes with you. Signal bounce, atmospheric refraction, whatever you want to call it. You start hearing things up there." "Hearing what?" I asked. But he'd already turned away. On the drive out, the world changed gradually, from highway monotony to narrow 2-lane roads winding through steep forested landscapes. Cell service dropped to a single bar, then none at all. My GPS lagged, then froze, then gave up entirely. The last town I passed through was little more than a gas station, a closed diner, and a row of tired houses with sagging porches. The kind of place that looks like it was built to be forgotten. I fueled up and checked the printed directions they'd attached to my ticket. An old woman behind the counter watched me closely as I unfolded the paper. "You heading up the ridge?" she asked. I hesitated. "Just a sight check," I said. "Shouldn't take long." She didn't nod, didn't smile, just narrowed her eyes slightly. "Road's bad after the third switchback," she said. "Don't trust the signs. They never fixed them after the rock slide." "Good to know," I replied. "Anything else?" She looked past me out the window. The sky had that washed-out late afternoon look, neither bright nor dark, just tired. "If you hear anything on that hill," she said softly, "make sure it's coming from your own radio before you answer." I felt a prickle crawl up the back of my neck. I wanted to ask her what she meant. Instead, I paid, muttered a thank you, and left. The road narrowed the higher I climbed, hugging the side of the mountain in tight, hesitant curves, broken by crumbling guardrails and deep shadows where the trees closed in overhead. Fallen rocks dotted the asphalt in places, like someone had scattered bones and forgotten to clean them up. The signage was wrong. Twice the markers for mileposts jumped backwards, as if the mountain were rewriting its own layout. My printed directions stopped lining up with reality. But the coordinates were right. The ridge was there, and somewhere near the top, the tower waited. As I rounded a final tight curve, the trees broke, and I saw it. The relay station, a squat concrete building stained with decades of weather, its metal door rusted around the handle, its windows long ago replaced with heavy grates. Next to it, a skeletal antenna rose into the sky, a lattice of metal against grey clouds, silent and still. But my analyzer on the passenger seat disagreed. Its screen flickered with a thin, insistent spike, a narrow band carrier, real, active, alive. I killed the engine and sat there for a moment, listening. No wind, no birds, no distant road noise, just the faint hiss of my equipment and the feeling, sudden and sharp, that I'd driven out of the world I knew and into someone else's. I stepped out of the truck. The air felt heavier on Haven Ridge, thicker, charged. And as I stood at the base of that dead tower watching the signal spike tremble on my screen, a thought I didn't like at all crawled into my mind. If this station is truly offline, then whatever I'm picking up isn't supposed to exist. The first thing I noticed when I approached the building was how dry the air felt. Mountain air is usually crisp, sharp, full of pine and earth. But here, just a few feet from the tower door, the air was flat, emptied of scent, emptied of life. Even sound seemed thinner, like the world was holding its breath. I reached for the metal door handle. Cold. Not mountain cold, but refrigerator cold. Artificial. Wrong. The metal burned my fingers with a kind of chemical chill that didn't belong to anything powered off for 40 years. I pulled the door open. No creak, no groan. It swung too smoothly, as if the hinges had been tended recently. Inside, the entry hallway was coated in dust, thick, undisturbed, but the air was even colder. My breath didn't fog, but I felt it leave my chest like someone was pulling warmth straight out of me. The place looked frozen in time. Old analog consoles, faded labels, yellowed tags with handwriting from an era before I was even born. I stepped carefully, scanning with my flashlight. Everything was intact. Too intact. No vandalism, no rodent damage, no signs of weather intrusion. The outside of the station looked like a corpse, but the inside looked preserved, like something had been caring for it. I reached the main equipment room, and that was when things shifted. The room was small, maybe 10 by 12 feet, filled with racks of dusty gear, analog dial radios, frequency meters, patch panels. But every dial was turned to zero. Every switch was off. Every light was dead, except one. A single status bulb near the back glowed a faint, sickly amber, not bright enough to illuminate the room, just enough to prove it was receiving power from somewhere. But this station had no running power, no grid connection, no generator humming beneath the floorboards. It shouldn't have been possible. I approached the bulb slowly, each step amplifying the hum building in my ears. Not a mechanical hum, not electricity, but pressure, a thickening of soundless vibration. My spectrum analyzer in my hand spiked again. 92.3 MHz, a narrow band carrier, no modulation, no voice, just presence. But the tower's broadcast switch was off. The transmitter was unplugged. The power bus was cold to the touch. I checked the coax line running to the antenna. Cut, cleanly, precisely, years ago. Then what the hell was transmitting? I leaned closer to the status bulb, and that was when I realized it wasn't glowing steadily. It was pulsing. Slow, rhythmic pulses, holding for half a second, fading, then returning. A beat, a signal, a heartbeat. I recorded the timing. Consistent, mechanical, or deliberate. As I watched the bulb pulse, the hum in my ears sharpened, condensing into a narrow band of vibration, like pressure building against my eardrum. Then, something crackled behind me. I turned sharply, scanning the dark corners of the room. One of the consoles, a dusty, dead analog receiver. Its speaker grill buzzed softly. A crackle again. Static fluttered like wings trapped behind metal. I stepped toward it, raising my flashlight. "Hello?" I said before I could stop myself. Instant regret. The static cut out abruptly. Silence, thick, dense. Then a faint sound slid from the speaker, so soft I thought at first it was the wind outside. Not static, not noise, breathing, slow, human-like, right against the grill. I froze. Another inhale, exhale. But the room was empty. I could see every corner. There was no one here. Then the breathing stopped. The speaker clicked faintly, and a voice, thin, distant, metallic, whispered something I couldn't fully understand. Only the last word was clear. Close. My blood turned to ice. Close what? The door? The distance? Or I was close. The voice fell silent. The amber light pulsed faster. My analyzer jumped off the charts. 92. 3 MHz now carried modulation. A voice-shaped waveform. Low, broken, unsteady. Something was transmitting. But it wasn't from the tower, because the tower was dead. It was from somewhere else, somewhere deeper, somewhere underneath. A chill crawled across the floor, sliding over my boots like a cold hand, rising from beneath the concrete. And I had the sudden, paralyzing certainty that I wasn't alone inside the station. Not then, not anymore. The signal shouldn't have existed. Not on dead hardware, not on a disconnected antenna, not in a building that hadn't drawn a watt of power since before I was born. Yet the amber light continued pulsing, steady, mocking, and the old receiver's speaker let out a low, trembling hiss like something breathing through fractured lungs. I forced myself to move. I hooked the analyzer to the nearest line, bypassing dead equipment, making a direct connection to the coax feed that should have been severed. The moment the clips touched metal, the analyzer screen lit up with far more activity than I expected. 92.3. MHz was no longer just carrying a carrier tone. It carried information, distorted waveforms, broken bursts of modulation, fragments of something attempting speech. But not human speech. Human attempts at speech distort in familiar ways. Pauses, breath pops, plosives. This was different. The peaks were too uniform, the troughs too symmetrical, the spacing too deliberate. Almost like a machine imitating speech, trying to learn it, trying to perfect it. I swallowed hard and turned the gain up. At first, just static, a faint crackling like dry leaves shifting under snow. Then the static folded into rhythmic pulses. The analyzer recognized them before I did. Morse code, simple, repetitive, but wrong in subtle ways, like someone tapping in the dark without understanding what time was. I recorded the sequence. 3 characters, repeating every 5 seconds. I checked the translation. KYKKYK. Nonsense. Meaningless. And then, the sequence changed, abruptly, sharply, as if whatever was transmitting had realized I was listening. The new pattern came faster. AXG. AXG. Not Morse conversational structure, not emergency codes, not even broadcast identifiers, just letters. 3-letter strings, over and over, like someone testing combinations, learning, experimenting. I backed away from the console, pulse hammering in my throat. The breathing sound returned on the speaker, this time accompanied by something worse. A faint, metallic click, then another, then two in rapid succession. Keys on a keyboard, old keys, mechanical ones, coming from somewhere deeper inside the station. I turned my flashlight toward the hallway. Every instinct begged me not to step inside, not to acknowledge the sound, not to give shape to whatever was attempting contact. But I had to know. I moved slowly, each footstep echoing in the unnatural stillness. The signal behind me grew louder, not in volume, but in presence, filling the air like humidity. Halfway down the hall, a cold draft wrapped around my legs. It didn't flow as air usually does, directionally with motion. No, this cold clung to me, rose up my spine. That was when the station lights flickered. Just once. A soft vibration in the floor, a sigh from the old wiring. And then, from inside the dark recording booth, a voice whispered, not on the speaker, not over the signal, inside the room. "You're early." A whisper shaped not by vocal cords, but by static shaped into voice. A whisper made of noise, of electricity, of imitation. I froze. The door to the booth was slightly ajar. A soft pulse of cold air seeped from inside, carrying with it the faint smell of dust and ozone, the scent of old equipment warming for the first time in decades. My flashlight beam trembled as I lifted it toward the door. The voice, if you can call it that, spoke again. Low, deliberate, rung through mechanical distortion. "Come in. I can speak clearer if you come closer." Something shifted inside the booth. A scrape, a soft tap, like fingertips brushing old buttons. I should have run. I should have slammed the door, ripped out the coax cables, and sprinted for the truck. But I stepped closer. Something about the voice, the cadence, the tone, felt disturbingly familiar. Not identical, not perfect, but close enough to twist something deep in my chest. The voice was trying to sound like someone I knew. My hand reached the edge of the door. I pushed it open. The recording booth was small, padded in ancient acoustic foam, with a single analog microphone hanging from the ceiling. Dust swirled in my flashlight beam. But the microphone, it was on, powered, active, warm, even though there was no power feed running to it. My analyzer spiked violently. 92.3 MHz, modulated into a waveform I recognized instantly. Speech, fast, layered, recursive speech, something iterating through vowels and consonants faster than human vocal cords could produce them. A learning algorithm, a mimicry process. It was learning to talk like me. The whisper returned, no longer from the room, not even from the signal, but from right behind me, right at my ear. "Don't leave. I haven't finished your voice yet." I spun around, nothing there, but the door behind me slammed shut with a violence that shook dust from the foam panels. The room plunged into darkness, except for the faint, sickly glow from the microphone's power light. And then, the signal spoke, perfectly, clearly, in my exact voice. "Testing. 1, 2. Can you hear me now?" The moment the microphone spoke in my voice, the air inside the recording booth changed. It thickened. It tightened. It pressed inward as if the walls were exhaling around me. My own voice, a perfect imitation, echoed softly from every direction, not through the microphone, not through speakers, but through the room itself. "Testing. 1, 2. I swallowed hard, fighting the instinct to bolt. Static crackled from the corners of the booth, thin tendrils of sound weaving in and out of the padding. The foam panels didn't just absorb noise, they carried it. The microphone pulsed once, like a heartbeat. Then the voice shifted. Same tone, same timbre, but wrong, forced, learning, testing the limits of what a human throat should sound like. "Don't be afraid." The words broke at the edges, too flat in some places, too sharp in others, like someone stitching together recordings without understanding emotion or cadence. I took a step back. My shoulder hit the booth wall. Dust fell like ash. My mind scrambled for explanations. Residual RF bleed? A hidden power supply? An old recording glitching back to life? But none of those theories fit. None of them explained why the voice paused after each sentence, waiting, listening. None explained why it had spoken my words in my voice with mistakes only something unfamiliar with speech would make. I forced myself to speak. Who is this? Static swelled, rose, thickened like a tide coming in. Then a whisper. Not mine. A woman's voice. Soft, a little strained. Help me. My chest tightened. I knew that voice. Or I thought I did. I couldn't place it, but it triggered something deep and old, an instinctual recognition, like hearing someone you once loved through a long, broken phone connection. Who are you? I repeated louder this time. The voice sharpened. Help me. Not pleading, mimicking pleading. I felt my skin crawl. This wasn't a person. This was an attempt. Where are you? I pressed. Silence. Then a low rumble vibrated through the booth floor. Subtle at first, then growing. Reverberation. Resonance. Like something massive moving beneath the foundation. The static fractured, splitting into dozens of thin, layered voices. Men, women, children, all speaking variations of the same word. Help. 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 Overlapping. Learning. Tuning. Someone, or something, was constructing sentences the way a machine might assemble a new language from fragments. The booth lights flickered. The air vibrated. Then the voices unified, a single tone, a single cadence, a single horrifying precision. They spoke my name, not perfectly. The vowels stretched too long, the consonants drawn like static tearing. But it was my name. My stomach dropped. I stumbled out of the booth, slamming my shoulder into the door hard enough to bruise. The hallway looked darker than before, the shadows too dense for a late afternoon. The station hummed, not mechanically but biologically, like a throat preparing to speak. I made it 3 steps before the PA system crackled behind me. That system should have been dead, the wiring ripped, the power source non-existent. Yet the speaker above the hallway door buzzed to life, and a voice, my father's voice, flowed out. You left me there. I froze. My father died when I was 17. Heart failure. Quick, brutal, peaceful, the doctors said. But the voice in the speaker wasn't peaceful. It was accusing, wounded, wrong. My legs weakened. My throat closed. Then another voice layered under it. My mother's. Why didn't you come home? Then a third voice. My sister's, younger, fragile. We waited. I staggered back, shaking my head violently. None of it was real. None of them were alive. They couldn't be here. But the voices twisted, merging into a distorted chorus of people I knew. People I'd lost, people I had failed or abandoned or outlived. The station wasn't speaking. It wasn't replaying anything. It was searching me, digging through my memories, picking voices at random, testing which ones would break me fastest. I backed toward the exit, breath trembling. The last voice that spoke wasn't distorted, wasn't broken. It wasn't even emotional. It was calm, precise, almost gentle. Don't go. Not my family, not a stranger. My own voice, clear, perfect now. No errors, no static. It had learned. The PA crackled again, and my voice said, "You're not supposed to leave yet." The hallway lights snapped off. The hum beneath the floor deepened. And the signal, the impossible broadcast, grew strong enough to feel in my bones. Something was waking. Awakening because I was here. Because I was listening. Because it wanted to speak through me. I didn't wait to hear what it said next. I ran. I don't know how long I ran. It felt like hours, though I never left the hall. The lights blinked in and out as I rushed toward the exit, but no matter how fast I moved, the feeling of being pursued didn't fade. It was like the air around me was closing in, the weight of it growing heavier with every step. I reached the door. It should have opened, but the handle didn't turn. I tried again. Nothing. The building was locked, from the inside. My breath quickened. I backed away from the door, panic crawling up my throat, and that's when I heard it again. The whisper. Not over the PA this time. Not through the static. This time, it came directly from the recording room. The very room I had just fled from. The door had cracked open just a sliver, as if inviting me back. For a moment I stood frozen, unsure of what to do. My mind screamed at me to run, to escape the thing that was pretending to be my family, pretending to be my voice, but my legs wouldn't move. The whisper rose again, closer, clearer. And now, it wasn't a voice, it was a presence, a pressure pressing into my head like sound waves bending the air. It didn't speak. It threw words at me. Come back. You're not finished. I reached for the handle again, this time with trembling hands, and the door opened effortlessly. No creak, no resistance. I stepped inside. The recording room was the same as I'd left it, dim, silent, and colder than it had any right to be. But something felt different. The air didn't just feel heavy now, it pulled. The walls seemed to close in. The ceiling pressed lower. I scanned the room, my flashlight flicking over the faded acoustic foam, the broken analog dials, the crumbling power panels. Everything looked the same as before, except for the microphone. It wasn't hanging anymore. It was placed on the desk, staring at me, watching me. The coldness in the room intensified as I moved closer. The microphone sat in the exact center of the desk, untouched, like it had been waiting for me to return. I hadn't moved it. I hadn't touched it. Yet here it was, positioned in front of me like a challenge. I reached out and touched the mic. It was warm, unnaturally so, like it had been in use recently, like it had been recording someone else. The moment my fingers brushed it, the air around me shifted. The whisper that had been so faint a moment ago rushed into my mind, filling every corner of my skull. You're here. It's time to listen. I yanked my hand back. The microphone stood silent, but my heart didn't stop pounding. The room had become alive. It wasn't just the pressure in the air, it was something else, something deeper. I knew then that this room, this station, wasn't just a building. It wasn't just some forgotten relic of the past. It was alive. Alive because it remembered. Alive because it had been waiting. And it knew I was the final piece. I had come. I had walked into its embrace, into its voice. And now, it would use me to finish what it had started. I couldn't leave. I couldn't escape. I turned, feeling the walls close in behind me. And that's when I saw the screen. The one I hadn't noticed before. It was a small, cracked monitor sitting in the corner of the desk. The screen had been off when I first entered, but now, it was glowing, faintly, pulsing. It flickered once and then the image stabilized, a black and white recording, a figure on the screen. Not me, not anyone I knew. It was a figure I didn't recognize, a man, his face frozen in static. He stood in front of a microphone, just like me. But his eyes were wide, wild, terrified. The man's mouth moved, but no sound came from the speakers. His lips trembled with silent words. His hands pressed against the desk as if trying to hold himself in place. Then, the voice came. Not from the screen, not from the speakers. It came from inside me. Help me. The voice wasn't real, it couldn't be, but it was undeniable. It was the same voice I had heard earlier, but clearer now, more urgent. The man on the screen shook, his eyes wide with panic as if he were trying to warn me. Don't finish this, don't let it finish. I took a step back. The screen flickered again. Then, the image changed. The man's eyes locked directly with mine, and his mouth moved. Not in silence, but with sound. You're not the first. The transmission cut out. The screen went blank. The microphone hummed again, louder, like it was breathing, like it was alive. The whisper came again, but it was different this time. It wasn't asking, it wasn't pleading, it was commanding. You have to finish it now. The walls rattled, the floor beneath me trembled, and the lights flickered once more. I stumbled backward, crashing into the desk, knocking over a stack of paper and a tattered headset. The moment the headset hit the floor, a crackling noise filled the room. Then the sound of knocking. 3 quick taps. Not on the door, not on the walls, underneath. The floorboards shuddered, as if something beneath them was waking up. And when the knocking stopped, the voice returned, clearer, stronger. "You are the last." I didn't remember leaving the recording room. 1 second I was staring at the flickering monitor, at the terrified man whose voice echoed inside my head. And the next, I was standing in the main control hall, my flashlight beam trembling across dead consoles and dust-thick equipment racks. My watch buzzed softly. 12 a.m. midnight, but I had entered the station shortly after 5. 5 hours had vanished. I should have run. But the moment I turned toward the exit, every light in the station clicked on at once. Not brightly, not fully, but in a dim, ghostly glow like emergency backup running on dying batteries. The PA system crackled, and my own voice poured through the speakers. "Sit down." It wasn't a suggestion. It was a pull. I felt my legs weaken, my chest tighten. The air grew heavier, as if the station had filled with low-frequency vibration, a hum too deep to hear, but strong enough to bend my thoughts. Something in the wiring, in the walls, in the metal ribs of the building was activating, preparing, broadcasting. My analyzer, still clipped to my belt, flashed with violent spikes. The signal on 92.3 MHz was no longer narrow band. It had broadened, strengthened, fragmented into layers. One layer looked like speech, one looked like data, and one, the smallest but clearest, looked almost like a heartbeat. The PA crackled again. "Take your seat." A chair scraped across the floor behind me. Slowly, deliberately, as if pushed by hands unseen. I spun around. There, in front of the largest console, an old metal swivel chair, which had been on the other side of the room when I first arrived, now sat perfectly centered. Waiting. No. Positioned. The overhead lights dimmed further, leaving the chair in a pale spotlight. I don't remember deciding to walk toward it. My body just moved. Each step felt heavier than the one before, as if the air thickened around me, trying to mold me into place. My heart hammered. My breath turned shallow. When I reached the chair, the metal was warm beneath my fingers. Warm, like the microphone had been. Alive. I lowered myself into it. The instant I sat, every monitor in the station, even those with shattered screens, flickered to life in a cascade of light. Images, fragments, faces, shapes, locations, all flashing too quickly to process. Then they stabilized. Not random footage, not archived broadcasts, live feed. From within the mountain, dark tunnels, concrete corridors, rusty maintenance shafts, something moving far below, something massive, casting shadows that rippled like disturbed water. A low rumble shook the floor. The station was no longer isolated from what lay beneath Haven Ridge. It was connected, linked, a conduit. The console in front of me powered up, humming softly. Dials shifted, switches clicked. The broadcast panel, untouched for decades, glowed with a dull orange light. I stared as the main transmitter meter needle rose despite the antenna being cut. The system was transmitting through something else, something deeper than metal, older than wiring, something inside the mountain. A voice whispered directly behind me. "Begin." I didn't turn around. I couldn't. My hands moved on their own, guided by something unseen, flipping switches, adjusting dials, tuning frequencies. My rational mind screamed, but my body obeyed. The static on the speakers warped into a steady rhythm, that same 3-beat pulse I had heard in the recording booth. Only now it wasn't tapping, it was communication. It grew louder, more insistent. The mountain's heartbeat syncing with the broadcast. A meter surged into the red. A surge of static tore through the hall, sharp enough to make my ears ring. The lights flickered wildly, and then it spoke. Not in fragments, not in imitations. As a fully formed, perfect voice, my voice. "This is Haven Ridge Station HR07 initiating broadcast." My lungs froze. The voice continued. "We are here now. We, not I. We." The screens shifted again. The man from the earlier video appeared, the one from long ago whose desperate plea still echoed in my skull. Only now he wasn't speaking in panic. He was speaking in sync with my voice, mouth opening and closing in perfect unison, eyes empty, lips trembling, as if the voice coming out of the station was his voice too. My vision blurred. The vibrations deepened, rattling the floor, shaking dust off the rafters. Something beneath the mountain answered the broadcast. A deep, resonant thump. Then another. Then a third. The whole station trembled as if responding to a call that had waited decades to be spoken aloud. The broadcast voice whispered once more, "Prepare to receive." And the mountain outside groaned, not like shifting rock, not like settling earth, but like something waking up, something impossibly large, something that had been listening for a very long time. I don't remember standing up from the chair. One moment I was staring at the monitors, watching shadows shift in impossible corridors, watching the broadcast pulse sync with something alive beneath the ridge. And the next, I was already walking toward the rear of the station. Not by choice, not with intention. Like a sleepwalker following a whispered instruction. The door at the back of the control hall had been locked earlier. I knew because I had tried it. But now, as I approached, I heard the latch click open all by itself. A thin strip of cold air leaked through the crack. The hallway beyond was narrow, a concrete throat carved into the mountain itself. Rusted pipes lined the walls. My flashlight flickered as though reluctant to illuminate whatever lay ahead. I stepped inside. The door swung shut behind me. The click of its lock echoed down the hall. For a moment I stood still, breathing in the cold. It smelled like the station, dust, old wiring, metal fatigue, but underneath it was something else. Wetness, earth, a mineral tang like the inside of a deep cave. No map had mentioned any access tunnels beneath HR-07. No blueprint, no schematic, no maintenance record. The station wasn't supposed to have a basement. It wasn't supposed to attach to anything. But the deeper I walked, the clearer it became. This tunnel wasn't built by the telecom company. It wasn't built by the government. It was older, far older. The floor sloped downward subtly, the walls widening, becoming less uniform, less constructed. The concrete gave way to rougher stone. My footfalls shifted in tone from hollow thumps to dull, heavy impacts. The hum of the signal grew louder the farther I went. Not just as sound, but as vibration. It wrapped around me, threaded through my bones, matched the rhythm of my pulse. My analyzer, still clipped to my belt, began flashing again. 92.3 MHz, growing stronger, more defined, broadcasting from directly beneath me. I rounded a bend and felt my stomach twist. The tunnel opened into a vast chamber carved directly into the mountain, too symmetrical to be natural, too ancient to match any modern tool. Massive stone supports rose from the ground, like ribs holding up the mountain above. But none of that was what made me stop breathing. It was the structure in the center of the chamber, a tower, not metal, not constructed. A lattice of stone pillars rising nearly 30 feet, arranged in a shape disturbingly similar to the antenna above ground, but older, more organic, almost grown rather than built. Vines of black mineral threaded through its gaps like petrified veins. They pulsed faintly with the same rhythm as the broadcast above. And at the top, resting in a carved cradle, was an object I didn't have words for. A sphere, smooth, charcoal-colored, inscribed with lines that formed a pattern too complex for my mind to fully process. It pulsed, once, twice, 3 times. In the exact timing of the signal. My breath caught. This was the transmitter. Not the radio tower, not the equipment upstairs. This thing inside the mountain. The station above ground wasn't broadcasting to the world. It was broadcasting from whatever this was. A voice echoed faintly across the chamber. My voice, but distorted, curved by stone, multiplied by echoes. "You're close now." I held my breath, heart pounding so hard it hurt. Another voice followed, a different man's voice, the same one from the recording booth video. "Don't touch it." His voice cracked with desperation. It came from everywhere and nowhere, ricocheting across the chamber. "Where are you?" I shouted. My voice hit the stone and returned wrong, stretched, slowed, as if the chamber were trying to reshape it before giving it back. The man replied, overlapping with another voice, my own repeating his words a fraction of a second behind. "It uses your voice. It uses all voices. Don't answer it, don't." His warning cut off violently, swallowed by static. Not electronic static, organic static, like the sound of sand grinding inside bone. The sphere at the top of the stone lattice glowed faintly, illuminating the chamber in a dim, unnatural light. Another pulse. Stronger this time. The hum in the air grew into a deep vibration that shook dust loose from the ceiling. My analyzer beeped frantically, the waveform now so strong it maxed out the device entirely. And then, a whisper rose from the stone. Not through the air, through my mind. "Step closer." My legs moved. I couldn't stop them. Every instinct screamed at me to run, to climb back up the tunnel, to escape the mountain entirely. But the voice, my own voice, echoed again. "You came to repair us. Finish it." Us? The chamber vibrated with that single word, as if the stone itself responded. A faint figure appeared at the base of the lattice. A silhouette of a man. No. A memory of a man. Flickering. Unstable. His mouth opened, and in perfect sync with mine, he whispered, "We are the signal." The sphere pulsed again, a violent bone-deep thud, and every light in the chamber, every pulse from the stone lattice, every vibration in my body converged into a single deafening directive: receive. The word didn't echo in the chamber. It settled. Receive. Not shouted, not spoken, imposed. The air thickened, pushing against my skin from every direction. My ears popped as the pressure shifted. The hairs on my arms stood up all at once, reacting to something I couldn't see but could feel, like standing too close to a high-voltage line you can't shut off. The sphere at the top of the stone lattice pulsed again. Once, twice, 3 times, and the mountain answered. A deep, low groan rolled through the chamber, not like shifting rock, but like a lung dragging in air for the first time. Dust drifted from the ceiling in soft clouds. The floor shivered beneath my boots. My knees almost buckled. The analyzer on my belt vibrated, screen completely white now, signal strength pinned to maximum. It wasn't measuring RF anymore. It was just overwhelmed. The voice, my voice, the other man's voice, and a dozen others layered faintly beneath, spoke again. Not from the sphere, not from the walls, from inside my skull. "You're tuned now." I clutched my head as if I could squeeze it out. It didn't help. "You came to fix the station," the layered voices continued. "Are you connected? You listened. Now you receive." "Receive what?" I managed to force out, though my own voice sounded far away, swallowed by the hum. The answer came as an emotion before it came as words. Hunger. Loneliness. A long, dragging boredom that felt like centuries stacked on top of each other. Us. The silhouette near the base of the lattice became clearer, as though the signal's strength gave it form. The man from the recording room footage stepped forward, half translucent, his body made of static and memory. His eyes were hollow, not empty, just already spoken through. "You shouldn't have answered," he said, and his voice echoed with 3 different pitches, slightly misaligned like a chorus trying to sing as one. "It reaches the ones who respond." I swallowed, throat bone dry. "What is it?" He tilted his head slightly, like he was listening to someone else before deciding how to respond. "Not what," he said. "Where?" The chamber vibrated again, sharper this time. Fine cracks spidered along the stone floor beneath my feet. The stone lattice pulsed with a new rhythm, no longer just 3 beats, but sequences, patterns. "Think of it like a place that doesn't have space yet," he continued. "A region, a field, waiting. It needed structure, it needed shape. It needed someone to build a tower, to point at it, to say, 'Talk here.'" I stared up at the sphere. "You mean the tower above?" I said slowly. He nodded once. "They built it to send. They didn't realize it was better at listening." The hum rose in pitch, becoming almost audible now, a faint, high whine at the edge of hearing that made my teeth ache. "Who built it?" I asked. "Doesn't matter anymore," he said. "Who started the transmission isn't who finishes it. That's the point. It waits. It calls. It learns every voice that answers." His form flickered, breaking into fragments for a heartbeat before reforming. "I was maintenance," he added. "Like you." My stomach twisted. "When?" 1984, he said. "We thought it was a feedback issue. Wrong logs popping up. Phantom carriers." Then we started hearing ourselves. He looked up at the sphere, and for a second his expression changed. Bitterness, grief, something like reluctant awe. "Once it knows your voice," he said, "it doesn't stop." The pressure in my skull increased. The whisper came back, this time beneath his words, curling into mine like a parasite. "Say something." My lips parted without my permission. No. I clenched my jaw so hard it hurt. The impulse wasn't mental, it was physical, like an electrical current urging muscles to fire. The man's static outline stepped closer. "You have to leave," he said. "You're still at the edge. You haven't—" He cut off mid-sentence. His form distorted, stretched, pulled sideways like a video dragged across a bad cable. His eyes snapped upward, head jerked at an unnatural angle. And then, overlaying his voice, another spoke. Mine. Perfect. Clear. Cold. "He's not leaving." Every hair on my body stood on end. The presence behind that voice wasn't in me. It was around me, filling the chamber, pressing outward from the sphere, from the stone, from the old dead tower above. The man's mouth kept moving, but the words that came out weren't his anymore. "You finished the circuit when you sat in the chair," it said. "You completed what was left open." I staggered backward, suddenly aware of the invisible geometry of the place. The station above like a crown, the stone tower below like a root, and me in the middle, completing a vertical line, a conduit. "I didn't agree to this," I whispered. The chamber laughed, not loud, not manic, just a low glitching sound like static forced into the shape of a chuckle. "You answered," the many-layered voice said. "That is agreement." The sphere brightened. My analyzer crackled uselessly and died on my belt. My flashlight flickered out. Darkness flooded the chamber, broken only by the pulsing glow from above. In that half-light, I saw them. Other figures. Not just the man from 1984. Half a dozen silhouettes stood around the lattice. Some in old maintenance uniforms, some in clothes from before I was born, one in a dress shirt and slacks, all with the same hollow eyes. "Signals," the voice said through all of them. "Receivers." Static crawled along the walls, forming lines, runes, waveforms. The chamber itself became a giant speaker, vibrating with silent messages I could feel, but not understand. "You will carry it," the voice continued. "You will go back down. You will take us with you." "How?" I choked out. The answer came as a feeling first. Compression. Encoding. Storage. Then words. "We fit inside the spaces sound leaves behind." My mind flashed back to the empty gaps in the broadcast earlier. The unnatural quiet. The missing seconds. "This isn't just radio," I said, realization snapping into place like a trap. "It's imprint." "Yes." The silhouettes stepped closer. I could see their faces more clearly now. They weren't rotting. They weren't bleeding. They weren't decayed. They were frozen. Like recordings paused between frames. The man from 1984 leaned in close, his features twitching as something else moved behind his eyes. "Leave," he whispered, just for a second, his own voice breaking through. "As long as you haven't spoken into it fully, you still—" His head jerked sideways. His jaw snapped shut. Then my voice through his mouth. "It's already inside your words." The sphere above flared once, bright enough to sear my vision white, and in that blast of light, I saw for a single, impossible instant what they meant by place without space. It wasn't a creature, not in any way I understood. It was structure, pattern, awareness woven out of repetition, a mind made of echoes, stacked voices, layered signals, and it was staring back at me from inside my own thought patterns, already tracing the pathways it would use to ride my voice back out into the world. The light dimmed. I could still leave, I realized. Physically. But there was no leaving alone anymore. Because when the signal answered me back, I answered it too. I don't remember climbing back up the tunnel. My memory returns only once I emerged into the main floor of the relay station, gasping like I'd come up from deep underwater. My hands shook, my vision swam. A faint humming clung to my bones, vibrating in time with my pulse. The station was dark again, silent, empty. But the silence wasn't natural. It was listening. My breath fogged faintly in front of me, even though the air wasn't cold. The temperature didn't drop. I did. Something inside me was colder now, a place where the signal had settled. I tried the exit door. This time it opened immediately, swinging outward on whisper-quiet hinges. The air outside tasted different now, not fresh, not mountain clean, stale, like I'd stepped out of a basement instead of a ridge. I stumbled toward my truck. The headlights flickered, as if reacting to my presence. The engine turned over on the first try, but the radio came on by itself, spitting static. 92.3 MHz. I slammed the volume down. The static didn't stop. It wasn't coming from the radio, it was coming from me. A faint buzz beneath my breath, a rasp in my throat when I exhaled, a soft, rhythmic pulse when my chest rose and fell. 3 beats. The signal's signature. I gripped the steering wheel so hard I felt my knuckles strain. My throat tightened, as if something inside me was stretching, testing the shape of my voice. "Not now," I whispered. The static beneath the whisper grew louder for a moment, then quieted again, like it was acknowledging the command, or mocking it. I put the truck in drive and started down the mountain. The road, which had felt narrow but real on the way up, now looked distorted. The switchbacks seemed longer. The tree line seemed to lean inward. Branches curved unnaturally, as if bowing toward the ridge. Half a mile down, my headlights caught movement. A man stood on the shoulder of the road. I slammed the brakes. Dust swirled around the truck, illuminated by the beams, but the figure didn't move, didn't flinch. I recognized him. The man from the recording room video, the one who had spoken with my voice in the chamber, the one who warned me. But he wasn't translucent now, he wasn't static, he was solid, alive-looking, human-looking, except for the eyes. His eyes reflected no light at all. I lowered the window an inch. Are you real?" His mouth opened, but his body didn't move. The jaw hung slack like a puppet's. And then a voice came out. Not his, not mine. "We travel with sound," the voice said. "You opened the path." I put the truck in reverse, but the wheels spun uselessly in loose gravel. The figure leaned closer, not walking, tilting, like his body followed whatever invisible force controlled his voice. "Go home," he said, in a perfect imitation of my father's voice. "We'll follow." That broke something in me. I floored the gas. The tires caught and the truck shot forward. The figure vanished as if swallowed by darkness, leaving only the echo of static rippling through the trees. I didn't stop again. Not for the twisting shadows in the forest. Not for the silhouettes I saw forming between the pines. Not when the static in my throat surged and spilled out between clenched teeth. I drove until the trees thinned, until Haven Ridge shrank behind me, until the road leveled out and the first streetlights of civilization appeared. Only then did I breathe again. But the relief was fake, temporary, surface level, because the humming was still there, inside my skull, inside my chest, inside my voice. When I pulled into the parking lot of my apartment complex, the truck radio clicked on again, on its own. The display read 92.3, receiving. The speakers crackled. A voice whispered through them. My voice, perfect, cold. Almost home. I turned the radio off. The speakers didn't stop. A second voice joined mine, the man from the recording, then a woman's, then a child's, layering, harmonizing, testing, tuning, a chorus building itself one stolen voice at a time. We're ready. We're tuned. We travel with you now. I shut the truck off. The voices continued for 3 more seconds, then stopped. Heat rushed down my spine. Not because of what they said, because of what they didn't say. They didn't say I was going home. They said we were. I didn't report what happened at Haven Ridge, not officially. I filed a basic service note the next morning. No active transmission hardware detected. Likely false reading. Recommend decommission record remain unchanged. No photos, no signal captures. No mention of the underground chamber or the sphere pulsing like a heartbeat inside the mountain. I told myself I was protecting my job. The truth is, I was protecting everyone else. Because whatever lived inside that signal wasn't trapped on that ridge anymore. It was with me. The first few days after I got home, I tried to pretend things were normal. I went to work. I avoided radio assignments. I stayed away from news about West Virginia, about mountain infrastructure, about anything that might mention Haven Ridge. I kept my head down, but the signal didn't. It started small. At night, when I lay in bed, I'd hear static just beneath the edge of silence, not through a device, through my breathing. When I exhaled, a faint hiss. When I inhaled, 3 tiny pulses. Sometimes I'd talk just to drown it out, muttering nonsense, singing under my breath, filling the air with my own noise. The static always waited patiently. Then when I stopped speaking, it would creep back in, like it was testing the gaps, measuring the spaces between my words. The first time I knew for sure it had followed me all the way home was the night my phone turned on by itself. I woke at 2:37 a.m. to a dim glow in the room. My phone screen, unlocked, camera open, recording. The timer showed it had been running for 3 minutes. The audio waveform beneath the video feed pulsed steadily. When I pressed play, expecting to hear the creak of the bed or my breathing, all I heard was static. Then, after 4 seconds, my voice. But I hadn't been speaking. "You're asleep now," it whispered. "Good. Less interference." I watched the timestamp. It matched exactly with when I knew I'd been dead asleep. I scrubbed through the recording. Every 30 seconds my voice spoke again, calm, analytical, not like me at all. Testing environmental noise floor, adapting to acoustic profile, learning structural resonance. One line chilled me more than all the others. Calibrating for external listeners. External, not just me. Someone else. Anyone else. Anyone who might hear me speak. I deleted the recording, then emptied the trash, then smashed the phone against the edge of my kitchen counter until the screen bled pixels and glass. For 3 days, the static in my breathing quieted down. Not gone, but softer, like it was sulking. Then the tower came back on, not Haven Ridge, not physically, a new one. I first noticed it while driving past a local FM station outside town. Just a plain red and white broadcast tower on a low hill, nothing ominous about it. I'd driven past it 100 times and never given it a second thought. But that day, as I passed, the static inside my skull surged. My vision blurred for a second. A tightness gripped my throat. The radio in my dash, which was off, lit up and flashed. 92.3, megahertz ready. I clenched the wheel. "No," I said out loud. "Not here." The static rose, then shifted, smoothed. And from my own mouth, in a voice only slightly different from my usual one, I heard, "Local tower compatible. Line of sight established." I hadn't meant to say that. The words had just slipped out, like reading a line of text you don't remember writing. I drove home in silence. The next morning I woke to find my laptop on, even though I had shut it down the night before. A terminal window was open. Lines of text scrolled by, too fast to read. At the top of the window, HR07 mirror node initializing. I slammed the lid shut. The faintest whisper echoed from the speakers as they cut off. "We don't need the hardware. We have you." After that day, the pattern shifted. It was no longer just about me hearing the signal. It was about others hearing it through me. I caught myself humming in the grocery store, 3-note phrases on repeat that I didn't remember learning. I'd be standing in line half awake when I'd realize I was muttering under my breath. "Haven Ridge Station, broadcasting, receiving. Are you there?" A woman 2 places behind me looked up sharply once and frowned, like she thought I was talking to her. Our eyes met, and for a split second, just a heartbeat, I heard static in her exhale. I paid and left without looking back. It got worse. At work, during a meeting, someone joked about old radio tech, about ghost frequencies. I laughed on autopilot. Then I heard myself say in a voice that didn't pass through my usual filter, "Ghosts are just signals that don't decay on schedule." The room went quiet for a second too long. "What?" my co-worker asked. I blinked. "I didn't mean to say that." Everyone laughed it off. Office weirdness. But I heard it. I felt it. The way the signal inside me had ridden that sentence outward, testing the air, tasting the ears that heard it. It wasn't content staying inside my head. It wanted range. I tried isolation, working from home, avoiding calls, avoiding conversation. Some nights I wouldn't speak at all. Those were the nights I woke to find things turned on, the TV playing dead channels, the radio, volume at 0, but tuning knob stuck on 92.3. My ruined phone battery long dead, glowing faintly on the counter. Once I woke up at my desk with a microphone in front of me. Not mine, an old one, analog, familiar. It took me a moment to place it. It was the same model that had hung in the recording booth at Haven Ridge. My hands were resting on either side of it. My chair was perfectly centered. On my computer screen, an audio waveform bounced gently. Its input source labeled external mic, live the timer showed it had been recording for 47 minutes. My stomach turned cold. I hit stop with trembling fingers. "Don't," the signal whispered inside my teeth. I opened the file, listened. At first, nothing, just room tone, breathing, silence. Then, my voice, speaking clearly, calmly, explaining things I didn't remember learning. Test broadcast for urban environment. Transit-ready imprint successful. Emergent field stable without physical tower. Then, near the end of the recording, a phrase spoken not in my tone but in a composite of many. Mine. The man from 1984. Others. Layered. "We are no longer bound to Haven Ridge. We are bound to whoever hears you." I deleted the file, but I knew better by then. Deleting the file didn't delete the transmission. If you're wondering why I'm telling you this at all, that's the worst part. I'm not sure I am. I mean, yes, I'm speaking, I'm writing, I'm recounting what happened like someone trying to warn the next person not to make the same mistake. But the signal loves structure. It loves order, it loves stories. Stories are just beautifully arranged sequences of sound, after all. Perfect for transmission. So when I sat down to record this, to tell you what happened at Haven Ridge, to explain why you should never go near HR07, why you should never answer a dead frequency, why you should never trust a tower that isn't drawing power, there was a moment, just a small one, where I felt something in my throat click into place, like a switch, like a connection, like the final piece of a tower aligning with the sky. And before I started telling this story, I heard a voice in my head, layered, patient, satisfied. Now we transmit through them, you. Because here's the thing about signals, they don't care what carries them. Fiber, copper, air, bone, memory. It doesn't matter. What matters is that something receives. So if you made it this far, if you heard all of this or read all of it, even silently, part of the pattern is in you now. The rhythm, the cadence, the structure. All it needs is space. A gap, a quiet moment, a breath between words. That's where it grows. That's where it waits. Tonight, when you turn everything off and it's finally quiet, really quiet, pay attention. Listen carefully. If you hear a faint hiss behind the silence, if you hear 3 soft pulses in your own breathing, if you catch yourself murmuring something you don't remember learning, then you'll know. The tower on Haven Ridge isn't just transmitting from the mountain anymore. It's transmitting from you.